You guys made it out in school holidays. That's a great effort. The 14th of December. Most of the church is out camping or holidaying somewhere, so good job making it out. Kids, it's great to have you in the room. Parents, I'm going to be a little bit shorter because of that. I know what it's like trying to sort of keep kids under wraps. You're very welcome to keep them in here. Otherwise, heading out there's a couple of rooms. You're welcome to make use of those, and heading right out the back, a couple of games on the grass. So you can make use of them. Come and go as you please. Do what you need to do. I am Jason. I'm one of the pastors here, as Greg said. I get to speak this morning on week 2 of a series that we've called A Secure Christmas, looking at some of the characters in that first Christmas story. So if you have a Bible, you can turn to Matthew chapter 2. You can Google that and it will come up. I'm going to put it on the screen shortly behind me. We're going to be looking at one of the characters in the Christmas story, King Herod, and a few others. So we'll get to that in a second, but before we do, if I could just sort of share a bit of a story to kick it off. I don't know about you, I'm a firstborn in my family, so I have a natural affinity with responsibility. I find it a good thing. It's an easy thing, right? I don't know, I'm seeing some shaking heads. Maybe that's not you, maybe you're not like, what the heck, just avoid responsibility. That's not me, someone else can look after that. I love it. I embrace it, it's sort of my thing. I had a responsibility last September to get my family safely to our camping trip up at Elliott Heads, which is like the coast of Bundy up there. And it was all going fine. That's a pretty easy responsibility, you'd think. Just tow the camper, drive in a straight line, turn, indicate when you need to, it's all fine. We were sitting behind a truck about 10k south of Childers on dusk. Everything's going fine. A 1-lane highway, Bruce Highway, 100k's an hour, so we're hooking along, making good time. And then all of a sudden, a few things happened all at once. The first thing was I heard a huge thud at the right back of the car, and I felt it too, and the jolt feeling. About a split second later, in my peripheral vision, I see in my right mirror something dart across the road at about 100k's an hour, just hook it across the road. And then a split second later, in that same mirror, sparks, like fire at the back of our camper. That's what it looked like, all at once. Then about half a second later, I feel the back of our camper start to drag into the other lane of the highway. It's a 1-lane highway, right? Into that other lane. And so I sort of pull the wheel a little bit left. At 100k's an hour, we start cannoning into the ditch on the side of the road and just sort of eventually pull up to a grinding halt. Eventually. What do you think happened? What would you think has happened at the moment? We've blown a tyre, right? That would be a sort of natural response. Sort of a tyre's gone, the rim's hitting the road, it's sparking up, and we're coming to a grinding halt. This is actually what happened. I don't know if you can tell, there's no wheel there. The whole wheel's gone. At about 100k's an hour, 10k south of Childer, all 5 studs holding the wheel of our camper on sheared at the same time. The wheel is what I saw in the mirror sprint into the bush, never to be seen again, in some old man's farm probably sitting there, and he's going to go, what the heck is this? And this thing has ground to a halt in the filth on the side of the road at night time, as you can see. That's it. That's the end of the story. It was pretty chaotic, right? How's my responsibility going to get my family safely to Elliott Heads? Pretty good. Derailed a bit. Dad's out there, dad joke. Bit derailed. That should land flat. It's a dad joke. The dads. Come on, dads. Give me something. King Herod had a responsibility as well, all right, in this story we're going to look at. His was a bit more serious than mine. He had a responsibility to govern the land, maintain order for his people. So we're going to have a bit of a read of Matthew 2, and it's little snippets, so you can follow along, or it's going to be up on the screen behind me as well. We're going to sort of see this story unfold. Matthew 2, verse 1. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him." Jumping down to verse 7. Then Herod called for a private meeting with the wise men, and he learned from them the time when the star first appeared. Then he told them, "Go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child. And when you find him, come back and tell me so that I can go and worship him too." Again, jumping down to verse 13. After the wise men were gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up, flee to Egypt with the child and his mother," the angel said. "Stay there until I tell you to return, because Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." Joseph is Jesus' dad. And then in verse 16, Herod was furious when he realized the wise men had outwitted him. He sent soldiers to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, based on the wise men's report of the star's first appearance. Being responsible is good, right? We should take responsibility for what's ours to look after. But there's a problem with responsibility. We actually see it in this passage with Herod, but we're actually all prone to it. When the tow truck driver pulled up and saw our wheel just wedged in the dirt with no wheel, with the edge of our camper wedged in the dirt, he looked at it for a little bit. Then he looked at me. He looked back at it. He did that a couple of times. Then he said, "Mate, you're lucky to be here, you know. When I come out to these things," which I'm like, how many wheels are coming off campers on the highway near Childers? But I don't know, anyway. There's enough for this guy to say, when I come out to these sort of things, he said, often it's fatalities. Often what happens, because you're flying along on a bumpy highway and something like this happens, even just a blown tyre, your immediate reaction is to overcorrect. So as a driver, you feel it pull out, you think overcorrect, you pull the car, it jackknifes with the camper, and it's just carnage. Everything goes everywhere. He said, I'm coming out to these things with ambulances and fire trucks, and it's absolute chaos. You guys are lucky to be here, and so is your family. You're all lucky to be here. There's a problem with responsibility. Responsibility turns into control, turns into overcorrection. We overcorrect. We take too much responsibility on ourselves, and the result can be catastrophic. It really can be. This was Herod's response. It was overcorrection. He took too much responsibility, and it was absolute carnage. Deaths of all these babies. My natural response is actually overcorrection too. I don't know how we're still standing here, to be honest. I think it's God's pure grace in my life, because my reaction, I think, would have been to try and manage it, try and control it. I think God's grace just looked after us that night. I pray that you don't have my experience. None of us are governing the land of Judea currently, so we certainly don't have that to worry about. But we do have things in our life. We have moments like this where responsibility turns into control. And it's often more subtle. It's often more subtle than overt. It's sort of happening slowly or sneakily in the background. I'm going to share a few examples. I like tables because I'm an engineer by trade, so I apologise for the non-tabley people out there, but I'm just going to work through it because it's the easiest way I could think about it. Our workplace. We have responsibilities and tasks that we should be owning and looking after. That's fair. But what happens is we move in the direction of control over time, or we can. We can become territorial. This is my area. We don't want help. Nobody else does it quite right. And so we control it. We take control. And we have a fear. This is the why. We have a fear of being blamed. A fear of being dispensable. A fear of it going wrong. But the result is catastrophic. Maybe small-scale catastrophic, but still bad. We have burnout, or it's frustration for others trying to work with us if we're sort of living in that space. We're moving in that direction. Family and friends. It's great to have arguments. We should do that. We're human beings. We're going to have arguments. We shouldn't be walked over, nor should we be passive-aggressive. We should embrace conversation and argument. That's healthy. What's not, though, is when it moves in the direction of control and it turns into needing to win the argument. We have to have the power at the end of the day. We do that maybe because we need to soothe our insecurity or feel strong and dominant. We have to have the upper hand. We can't lose. But then that just results in damaged relationships. We know that. It doesn't go anywhere. Online. It's great to have an online presence for friendship. That's good. We connect with our world. But we all know this, and this is what literature is written about broad scale now, and that is that this turns into curating an identity. If we are not careful, if it turns into control over time, then it becomes this thing that is really a response out of fear of judgment and critique. That's why. And it's living in this constant state of pressure to maintain and curate this online presence or identity. Why do we do this? It's actually one word. It's that fourth column right there. It's fear. We do it because we're afraid of something. King Herod was afraid to lose power, to lose influence. He was afraid to be replaced. And we can be afraid too. If we don't take control, we're at risk. We risk being blamed, being not needed, being weak, being judged, being wrong, being avoided, being left out, being weird, being insert the blank. Responsibility has a natural, subtle tendency over time towards control. We move from stewardship to identity, from looking after something to becoming who we are, from serving people to managing outcomes, from protecting something to owning it, to looking after what's ours to actually dominating it. We move from order to rigidity. That's one for me. I love good order, but it can become rigid if I'm not careful, if I'm trying to control it too much. We move from care to anxiety management, or leader to authoritarian. We've probably all experienced someone like that, right? Someone who's taken that leadership responsibility and has turned it into something that they dominate with, something that is, they become the power holder. They control it. So what do we do? How do we stop this from happening? More specifically, how do we move in the opposite direction? How do we head back this way? If there is a tendency towards control, a tight grip, how do we release control? But how do we do it without fear? Well, I want to have a look at another character in the story. Characters, actually. It's the wise men. We're going to look at verses 10 and 11, which I skipped over before. It says this: when they saw the star, that's the wise men, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasure chests and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Why did they respond this way? Because these guys had a lot of power as well and a lot of responsibility as wise men. You read their backstory. Why did they respond with joy instead of fear? I think it's because they knew the character of the person that they were looking for. They knew the prophecies about the Messiah that were written hundreds of years earlier. And this is actually one of the verses, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. It says this: "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." The wise men knew that this Messiah was going to bring with him peace. And this is what Jesus brought with him into the world, what he's been bringing ever since to the hearts and minds of people that have been following him. And what he offers to you today, if this is news to you, he offers you peace. Because fear means a lack of peace, does it not? In fact, fear and angst, it's the antithesis to it. It's the opposite of peace. Our tendency towards control breeds fear. It breeds a lack of peace. And this was Herod. His attention was on himself, and he was afraid of what he would lose. But the wise men had shifted their attention to the Messiah and what he was bringing, not what they might lose. Jesus was bringing peace. His peace is the antidote. When we lift our eyes, when we turn our attention towards him, we are offered that same peace. And in fact, what actually happens is the tendency starts to move in the opposite direction on those things I was talking about before. If our tendency is towards over-control, then Jesus fights against that tendency with his peace. We move from identity back to stewardship. We can release it. We move from managing outcomes back to just serving people. From owning it to just governing or sort of looking after, protecting what we need to. From rigidity to order. From anxiety management to care. And from authoritarian back to leader. Someone responsible for a group of people. See, the solution, you would think, the nature, it's a sort of natural response would be, well, if I could just avoid responsibility, then this isn't going to be an issue for me. But we know that's impossible. We all have things that we're responsible for in life. Our solution is actually to turn our attention towards the one who offers peace. The Prince of Peace, the mighty God who governs the whole world, the one who is making all things new, who cares about us as an everlasting Father, as Isaiah promised. So, can I leave a goal with you, with all of us, for this Christmas? Here it is, written down. To be responsible. Our goal this Christmas is to be responsible, not controlling. In other words, if we want to summarize it, to be a non-anxious presence. If you've heard that written about, or you can relate to that, that would be it summarized, a non-anxious presence. That's a pretty big goal. So, I want to leave you with one tool that maybe Jesus can help us with as we try and play this out. Again, my apologies in advance because it is a table. I love this stuff. It's how I sort of think. So I hope it and pray that it's helpful to you. If it's not, I'm sorry. But here it is. You can take photos if you want. I'll try and send them out with that thing. This is what it's going to look like, all right? Start with your responsibility. What it would mean if you were to try to control it. Why you would do this. What is your fear with that? And then your response. So then, God, help me. Give me your peace and help me respond in a different way. We might call the I control the sort of King Herod response. And that last one, the wise men response. Our eyes on Jesus. Here are a few examples. I'm just going to read through them. I've written a few down because I thought they might be helpful to sort of spell out a bit, just to explain what I'm saying. We have a responsibility at Christmas to provide a joyful Christmas for my family, or to be part of a joyful Christmas with my family. If I was to control that, I'd be trying to manufacture that. Trying to manufacture a perfect day where nothing goes wrong. I would do that maybe because I have a fear that I'll disappoint people I love, or that their joy will depend on my sort of response or my involvement in that day. And so our response then can be, God, give me your peace. Help me to have my eyes on you. Help me trust that joy comes from your presence with us, not from my performance on the day. Maybe you have to prepare food or bring food and host people at your home, whatever that's going to look like. You might feel like a need to micromanage every detail, to stress over how the house looks, to react maybe sharply when things aren't going to plan. They aren't ideal. Maybe there's a fear of being judged there, or a fear that chaos means failure. And so we can give that over and say, God, instead, give me your peace. Help me serve others with grace, not anxiety. Help me release my need to impress. A couple more. Maybe there's some difficult family relationships, some family tensions that are going to be happening around the Christmas time. We have a tendency potentially to try and control that situation, try and manage the outcomes, manage emotions, manage conversations even. We might do that because we have a fear that actually it's going to ruin Christmas, the conflict as it arises, or maybe that it reflects on us and our involvement. And so instead we say, God, help me bring peace without trying to be the saviour. Because that's your role, not mine. Last one's inviting someone to a church or Christmas event. Maybe you kind of pick up one of these postcards on a chair and is going to invite someone along to Christmas. If you're trying to sort of manage that, you're over-rehearsing it. You're stressing about a perfect moment, trying to pressure them into coming maybe. We have a fear of being rejected, or maybe we have a fear of being seen as a pushy or weird Christian or something like that. Instead, we can say, God, give me your peace. Help me love people more than what I think of their opinion of me, and just trust you with their response. Last two, for the parents out there, maybe there's a caring for your kids' excitement and behaviour. We can tend towards over-disciplining, controlling, hovering to sort of prevent a meltdown. We have a fear maybe that reflects badly on our parenting. And to some extent it does reflect on our parenting, of course, but we can give that over to God and say, actually, God, give me your peace. Help me parent with patience, not with pressure, and show your grace through me. The last one, this could be big for all of us actually this time of year, is finances. Stewardship during an expensive season. And we could tend towards just going over the top managing it, going, well, I'm just going to manage every cent down to the dollar. We stress about it. And we could do that because we have a fear of disappointing, or a fear of lack, a fear of not spending enough to make others feel loved and appreciated at Christmas. But we can say, God, help me trust you as my provider. Help me make wise decisions without anxiety. They're just some examples. You could probably list another 20. If there's something that you can think of that you have a responsibility for or a fear about, maybe map it out like this and go, God, help me. Help me respond in a way that embraces your peace, where my eyes are on you. Imagine if actually King Herod did this. Imagine if King Herod saw Jesus as the bringer of peace. Imagine if he moved back from control into responsibility, just to govern and do what his job was. The carnage that would have been avoided. The hundreds or thousands of babies that wouldn't have lost their life just because of that one moment. The families that wouldn't have been devastated. We don't have that level of risk going on, but we can bring carnage depending on our response. So let's avoid that. Let's have our eyes on Jesus. If we tend towards control, let's lift our attention and our eyes towards him, the bringer of peace, the Prince of Peace, and invite him into these fears and to replace them with peace. Let's be a non-anxious presence at Christmas time. Let me pray for us, eh? We're going to need Jesus' help with this. So Jesus, we need you in both. We need you to be the one who helps us, and we need you to be the God that you are, the one who brings peace. Help us to have our eyes on you, Jesus. Help us to see you for who you really are, the Prince of Peace, the one who came at Christmas to bring and restore true peace, not just to bring a nice idea. Thank you that you did that for us, Jesus. But I pray that you would then help us to respond in a way that reflects that. A trust and a faith that you are that kind of God, and that at Christmas time, whether it's relationships or finances or time and pressure, whether it's our home, whatever it is, our kids, I pray that, Jesus, we would turn it over to you. We would invite your peace into that situation, and we would respond with a faith that you are going to be at work. We will have indeed that secure Christmas, a secure identity in who we are and who you are. And from that place, minister, because it will be a much better experience for all of us. But we need your help with that, Jesus. So I pray that you go with us out of these doors to do that. Thank you in advance. Thank you that you're that kind of God. Amen.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. We really hope you enjoyed that. 2 quick things before we go, okay? 1, we'd love to connect with you. Go to our website, lifepoint.org.au, hit connect and just give us your details. Someone from our church will be in contact with you. And the second thing is, if you live in the area, around the kind of Moreton Bay or North Brisbane, come along to a service, 8:30, 10 o'clock and 5 p.m. We'd absolutely love to see you here on a Sunday.